You're 43 years old. It's a Tuesday night and you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling. Your phone lights up with another notification from your banking app. One of those polite reminders that your checking account balance just dropped below $1,000 again. And as you lie there, you start doing that quiet mental math we all do sometimes. Car payment, mortgage, kids' activities, insurance, groceries. And somehow, even though you're earning more money than you ever have in your life, you feel more financially stuck than ever. Here's what nobody really tells you about your 40s. This decade doesn't decide how rich you'll be. It decides how calm your future feels. And those are two very different outcomes. My name is James, and I spend a lot of time thinking about money. Not just the numbers, but the psychology behind it. The way financial decisions quietly shape our lives years before we realize it. And one thing has become very clear. Your 40s are a fork in the road that most people walk right past without noticing. The direction you take during this decade quietly determines whether the next 20 years of your life feel controlled or reactive. Whether you wake up at 60 with options or with obligations. If any of this sounds familiar, take a second and hit the subscribe button. This channel is about helping people see money differently. And if this video shifts your thinking even a little, hitting like tells me I should keep making content like this. Now, let's talk about why your 40s are so different from every other decade. Most people assume wealth is built by earning more money, and income definitely matters, but the data tells a more complicated story. Recent Federal Reserve surveys show that roughly half of Americans feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck. And surprisingly, that isn't just lower-income households. Bank of America research shows that even many higher-income families experience the same financial stress. Why? Lifestyle creep. You buy the bigger house. You upgrade the cars. Maybe a few premium subscriptions, private lessons for the kids, vacations that cost a little more each year. Before long, nearly every dollar you earn already has somewhere to go. This is the paradox of your 40s. You're probably making more money than ever before, but you're also spending more than ever. And the gap between those two numbers, income and expenses, quietly determines your future. Let me show you two possible paths. Path A looks impressive on the outside. High income, nice house in a good neighborhood, 2 newer cars in the driveway, maybe some premium memberships or services. But beneath the surface, nearly every dollar is committed. Fixed costs eat up 70 or even 80% of your income. When something unexpected happens, and something always does, it goes on a credit card or comes out of a small emergency cushion. You're not broke, but you're not free either. You're living inside what behavioral economists call a scarcity mindset, constantly juggling expenses, anticipating the next bill, the next payment, the next financial obligation. Path B looks a little less impressive. The house might be smaller, the car might be older, but there's one major difference: margin. 20 or 30% of income isn't already spoken for. So when opportunities appear, an investment, a career move, time off, or something meaningful, you can actually say yes. You're not stuck in survival mode. You're building. And here's the thing most people miss. The difference between those two paths usually isn't income, it's decisions. Specifically the decisions you make in your 40s about fixed costs. When you're in your 20s and 30s, time is forgiving. You can make financial mistakes and still recover. Start saving late, you still have decades ahead of you. Take a career risk that fails, you have time to adjust. But in your 40s, the math begins to change. Not because it's too late, it's absolutely not, but because every decision now compounds forward in a more concentrated way. You still have time. You just don't have unlimited resets. Historically, the stock market has returned roughly 10% per year over long periods, but that growth only matters if you're actually investing. And here's a tough reality. Research from Vanguard shows that the median retirement savings for Americans in their 40s is around $150,000. Meanwhile, surveys suggest people believe they need about $1.26 million to retire comfortably. That's a huge gap. And most people assume the solution is finding the next hot investment, a stock tip, crypto, real estate speculation. But the real solution is much more boring and far more powerful: your monthly overhead. Let's take cars as an example. The average new car payment in the US is now about $750 per month. Used cars average about $530. Many households have two vehicles. That's easily $1,400 just for car payments. Over 6 years, that's more than $100,000. Now imagine making a different decision, buying reliable used vehicles and owning them outright. If you invested that $700 monthly difference into a simple index fund earning 7% after inflation, you'd have more than $100,000 in 10 years. That's just cars. Housing can have even a bigger impact. Government data shows that homeowners with mortgages spend about 21% of income on housing on average, but in many areas, families spend 30, 40, or even 50%. Housing experts consider anything above 30% financially burdensome, yet millions of households fall into that category, which means a decision made in your late 30s, buying a house at the very top of affordability, can lock you into decades of pressure. Every oversized mortgage payment sends money to the bank instead of into investments. And this brings us to something fascinating about financial stress. Behavioral economists studying scarcity discovered something important. When people feel like they don't have enough resources, their brains start operating differently. Researchers call this tunneling. Your focus narrows to immediate problems. When your car breaks down and you don't have an emergency fund, your brain goes into firefighting mode. How do I pay for this repair? How do I get through the week? Long-term thinking disappears. And the interesting part is this: you don't have to be objectively poor to feel scarcity. Someone earning $150,000 but spending $145,000 can experience the same psychological stress as someone earning far less. Scarcity isn't just about income. It's about margin. Financial stress literally consumes mental bandwidth, making it harder to make thoughtful decisions. This is why one of the most powerful financial moves you can make in your 40s is building an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses. According to Federal Reserve data, only about 55% of Americans have even 3 months saved, which means nearly half the population is one bad month away from crisis. But when you do build that cushion, something remarkable happens. You stop flinching every time your phone buzzes. You stop lying awake calculating whether you can afford an unexpected repair. That constant background stress fades, and suddenly you have mental space again. Space to think about career moves, opportunities, personal growth. Margin creates freedom. It also creates leverage. With 6 months of expenses saved, you don't have to accept every bad situation at work. You can negotiate. You can take calculated risks. You can invest in yourself. And this creates a powerful cycle. Better financial stability leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to better financial outcomes. Now, let's talk about the traps that quietly derail people in their 40s. First, lifestyle creep. You get a raise, and within months, your expenses expand to match it. Your lifestyle grows alongside your income. A simple rule helps prevent this. Whenever your income increases, direct at least half of the raise straight to savings or investments before adjusting your lifestyle. Let your lifestyle improve, just make sure your future improves faster. Second trap, treating savings as spending money. When people hit savings milestones, they often celebrate by spending it. Vacations, boats, luxury purchases, but every time you dip into long-term savings, you reset the clock on compounding. Third trap, housing upgrades. Using equity to move into a bigger home often means committing to higher payments for decades. Housing becomes the single largest obstacle to wealth building. Fourth trap, car decisions. Nearly 1 in 9 new car buyers now takes on payments above $1,000 per month. Some loans stretch 7 years. By the time the loan ends, many people are already ready for another car. It becomes a treadmill that never stops. None of these choices are moral failures. They're normal. Our economy is built to encourage them. But normal isn't always optimal, especially in your 40s when decisions echo into the next 2 decades of your life. So what should you focus on? First, know your savings rate, not your income. What percentage of what you earn are you actually keeping? Second, reduce fixed costs before chasing higher income. A dollar saved from recurring expenses is often more valuable than a dollar earned. Third, automate everything. Automatic transfers to savings and investments remove the need for constant discipline. Systems beat motivation anytime. Fourth, think in opportunity costs. A $45,000 car isn't just $45,000. Invested over 20 years, that money could grow into more than $170,000.
Finally, protect your margin. That gap between income and expenses is your most valuable asset. Margin gives you options. Margin lets you sleep at night. Every financial decision should be evaluated by one question. Does this protect my margin or destroy it? Your 40s aren't the end of the story. They're a chapter where you decide how the story finishes.